thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cindy O'Meara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Karen Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cindy O'Meara. And I'll be introducing our very special guest today as Sue Moore works for me. But when we hired her, I had no idea what this amazing woman has done in her life. It's only through, talking to her and listening around the office as to exactly what she's done. So in a brief, so that everybody knows what we'll be talking about, is Sue was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and she cured herself. So what I would like to do is ask Sue to tell her history. Firstly, Sue, I'd love you to talk about the time leading up to your diagnosis. Let's start there. Let's start with the time leading up to your diagnosis. What were you up to? What were you doing? Where were you living? Because you're a mom.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Cindy. What an awesome introduction. And I suppose really the time leading up to the diagnosis, so that happened back in October 2014. And I was working for an amazing not-for-profit down in Geelong, Victoria. And my life was pretty sweet, married with a husband. And I was actually training for my first marathon. And what transpired was that 2 weeks before my marathon, training and everything, nutrition, everything was going well. And I'd been fit all my life. And then 2 weeks before, I had this massive migraine, which lasted for 5 hours. And it left me completely numb down the right-hand side of my body. And I actually thought maybe it was a stroke or something. As I said, I've been healthy all my life and I didn't know what to think, felt very vulnerable and scared. And to cut a very long story short, a month later, after loads of tests and blood tests and full body scan, I had a visit with a neurologist and he told me that I had 8 lesions on my brain. And because of that, they diagnosed MS. So at that time, my whole world fell apart as I knew it, because as I said, I've been so fit and well all my life and fit enough to run a marathon. And then I received this news. So I couldn't comprehend it.
So I want to ask you, was there any signs at all in the years leading up to, because those lesions, that's a lot of lesions in the brain. Were there any signs? Was there tingling? Was there, I don't know, migraines that just would come and go for no reason? Were there any signs at all, or the first sign was that migraine?
Pretty much, Cindy. The first sign was that migraine. I mean, I'd had headaches in the past, but I just put it down to either stress or headaches or, sleep. I suppose the only thing looking back, as they say, you can only understand where you are in the wake of your boat. So looking back, I was always had very cold hands and feet. And that would be the only thing I can think of, really. And again, looking back at my history, and it was only through working with you, Cindy, and the amazing documentary What's with Wheat, that when I saw that documentary, I literally cried, because in there was a section that talks about your family history. And my grandma had rheumatoid arthritis. My mum had rheumatoid arthritis. And my sister, at the age of 18, she was diagnosed with diabetes. And it was only then that I put the pieces together about, holy crap, we've got a family of autoimmune disease, and nobody had ever told us that it was all related.
Oh, my goodness. When we look at our family history and we start to see that, and you did, it was that type 1 diabetes that your sister had?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so you had 3 autoimmune diseases. So you had the genetics, which is what they say about autoimmune diseases, is that number 1, it's genetics. Number 2, it's environment. And number 3, it's your gut integrity and whether it's keeping out the toxins or not. So, yeah, you had that history, and I think it is a revelation when we start to realise that, and we can't continue to do what we're doing. Otherwise, we'll get the same results as our grandmother, our mother, our sisters, our aunts, or whatever else. So it's a really good wake up call. So
Yeah,
when
totally.
when you were given that diagnosis, tell us how you felt. What did you do? What was your first thoughts? Just go through what that does to just crush your whole world. Did you end up doing the marathon in the end?
Oh yes, I'll come to that. When I received that diagnosis, my whole world literally fell apart. I mean, it sounds like a Hollywood movie, but it was really like one of those sliding door moments when I was, in the surgery with a neurologist, and he had the perfect bedside manner. He was just gorgeous, and he was so touching and telling me the news. And then I must have my face probably drained of colour as the realization was sinking in. And then I remembered he pushed a box of Kleenex tissues towards me, and I thought, I don't need that. I'm British. I don't cry. And then it just suddenly hit me like this wall of tears that I just lost the plot completely. I was crying, and luckily my husband was in there, and he just took over as this almost like caretaker role, asking the questions and finding out a bit more about it. But we asked about, is there anything can we do? And he said, well, actually, it's incurable. There are recommended drugs, but we don't know enough about MS at the moment that we can prescribe drugs to help with the symptoms. But this was a clincher for me, and I always remember these words. He said, we can recommend drugs to help the symptoms, to help you potentially preventing you having an attack in the future, but we also don't know if you will have an attack. So in my mind, it just totally didn't make sense. I thought, why would I take a drug with huge side effects that might work, that might not work? It just felt like playing Russian roulette to me. And I just thought, no, I'm not doing this. This is my wake up call. I'm listening to my body, and I'm going to find another way forward. Yeah.
Not many people do that. Sorry, go on.
So were you always healthy as a child and always, of good health and obviously fit and all of those sorts of things? And apart from the rheumatoid arthritis, was there anything else leading up to that moment that could have alerted you to the fact that you were prone to something like this, or was it just a complete sideswiping shock?
Oh, totally, Kim. It was completely side-swiping shock. I've been so fit and well all my life. Even living in the UK, I would rarely take a day off work for a cold or flu. And I've actually physically been in hospital probably once, and that was probably 1, maybe 2 nights stay over in hospital. And that was when I was a teenager and had my wisdom teeth out back in the UK. And that was it. That's all I can say. From surgeries or whatever. So absolutely fit and well. So for me, being at my fittest, to be able to be fit and well enough to run a marathon, and then it felt as if my whole world was, the carpet was pulled out from me. That's what it felt like. Yeah.
And how did you bring that sense of calm around how you then move forward with it? Because I know you just said you watched What's with Wheat, but can you tell us the process or what journey you went on when you decided I can't take those drugs? Some people just think that that's the only option. What had you think that there was another way, and then what did you do?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, I've always been interested in personal development, and the power of human potential. So I'd always fascinated about people's journeys and stories when they, overcame something. If somebody had, massive tumors and then miraculously they disappeared in their body, I was just fascinated with how that could happen. So I think with people like that and being surrounded by that type of possibility, it was almost like when the 4-minute mile was broken, it was a case of beforehand, nobody thought it was possible. But as soon as it was broken, it gave people hope and belief that they too could do it. So I kind of thought in myself, okay, well, on some levels or all of levels, I take full responsibility that my body created this. So I just have to learn how to uncreate it. So I really did research on Google. I call it Dr. Google. I'm just looking for a second or third opinions as to what else I could do. How else could I take control of this and actually, work with it? So a lot of people were telling me, I'm always one of those people to listen to messages. And if I hear something, once or twice or even 3 times, then definitely I've got to take action. And one of those was a referral for Dr. Terry Walls, the Walls Protocol, who also is another lovely lady that features in What's with Wheat. So I had a look at her TED Talk, and I thought she was an amazing lady who'd also recovered from MS, and that was through diet. So I thought, okay, so that's proof that it's possible. And then another research that I did, I found Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talked about his journey to recovery through meditation. So basically, I combined those 2 elements, and that was almost my inner pill, if it's like a pill, but my inner healing as to how Sue could do it. And it's almost like, well, everyone's different, but that's how I was going to recover on my own terms. Does that answer your question? That was kind of how it all worked.
Yeah,
I think, Sue, that's a really beautiful holistic approach, and I think that just listening to you and what you've been through and the way that you came to terms with, if your body created it, you can uncreate it. I think a lot of, when people go through a diagnosis like yours, it's very easy to, become a victim of the circumstances, and justifiably so, by the way. It's comes from out of the blue, strikes a person as complete shock. And, for the most part, to get to where you got to, that the body created it, therefore you can uncreate it. I mean, that potentially could be a whole bunch of years worth of inner work before a person even reaches that comprehension or that understanding that they can participate in their own healing. I'm curious to find out what was it that gave you access to that way of considering this experience versus, holy crap, my life is reaching an end, let me start planning, or holy crap, woe is me, I can't believe this has happened. What was the difference that made the difference there for you?
Interesting. I think an inner burning desire inside of me that wasn't how I had wanted my life to transpire, because my initial understanding of MS was, and I was completely ignorant until I received the diagnosis, but my understanding was that you're fit and well, you receive a diagnosis, then you're in a wheelchair, and then you're dead. And that wasn't the path that I had planned for myself. I mean, I've only recently just turned 50, so have, decades and decades of years and things that I want to do. So I think it was a burning desire and a passion that I'm too early to die, and that's not how I'd mapped out my life. So with that belief and that intention, it was a case of, okay, so how are we actually going to deal with this on a day-to-day basis? And there was a lot of pain and hurt and rocking in fetal positions on the floor and crying, and and I think it's just coming out the other side and realizing that it sounds, I don't know if it sounds quite spiritual, but it almost as if it was my wake-up call to think, okay, well, to look at it rather than as a victim, but actually as a message and as a gift, that, wow, if I can actually overcome this or heal myself from this, or just to work with it and understand what the deeper message in my body is, what else can I do? And so, and also I'm so identified with being a runner that because after I woke up from the migraine, it left me completely numb down the right hand side of my body, as I said, and I couldn't even feel my foot. So to be that close to running a marathon and all the training, I didn't want it to go to waste. So there was a massive burning desire in me to be able to run again. I just thought, you can do anything to me, but just let me run again. So again, I think you've got to pull on your inner being and your burning desire that there's always more to give. There's always more in life. And I just found the power within to tap into that.
I think that's just absolutely profound. I always love to hear a story where, there's that whole mind body connection in the healing process, because I think to think that we can heal it one way, I think it's, I'm sure it can work, but I feel like it's a much more congruent, combined acknowledgement that the experience has a purpose. Let's find the greater purpose. Let's work towards the greater purpose. Let's see what the message is behind the illness or what the body's trying to communicate, so that then, when we do have that multi-pronged approach, there's a greater transcendence that becomes possible because of an illness, as opposed to simply a recovery. And I get very excited to hear what you're saying. So where are you at now with all of this?
I'm really fantastic now, as Cindy will vouch for.
Definitely.
So really, to take you back, received the diagnosis in 2014 and looked at everything holistically. So the journey from there up until now, really, I looked at my diet, and it was pretty clean anyway. Obviously, running a marathon, I did look at what the trainers say and, carving up, but realizing, again, looking at my body looking at it as fuel and nutrition as fuel and what the body needs. So I became, as I said before, I went through Dr. Terry Wall's protocol, which is really mainly paleo, so meat and a lot of vegetables, cut out all sugar, all dairy and all gluten, and started to feel better almost instantly. I was absolutely amazed just by those three core elements of my diet, how rapidly I improved. I didn't have any mood swings. I slept better. I felt fitter. The sensation in my leg came back. I took regular kinesiology sessions, so that helped with the trapped emotions in my body that I didn't even realize I had, but subconsciously I was able to get rid of those. And another big part, I mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza. I started doing his morning meditations. I started introducing daily meditation into my life. And what I would do in those meditations is very clearly and visualized in 9 months' time my catch-up appointment with my neurologist. And in my mind's eye, every single day, I over and over again went over this scene. And the scene was, I was in the neurologist's office and we were looking at his computer screen. And on the left-hand side was my brain with dots, covered in dots, and they were the lesions. And then on the right-hand side was a scan of the brain with no lesions on. And I visualize that every single day and how I'd feel with the neurologist saying that news. And what transpired, that actually did transpire like 9 months, almost 9 months to the day, when I went back to neurologist office and he said, Sue, out of the 8 lesions that you had, most of them have completely disappeared and only the few that remain have significantly diminished. And that was through no medical intervention. So, so I was blown away how powerful that visualization actually was.
Sue, did he ask you, how the hell did you do that? Did he ask you that? Did he say it's a miracle? How did you do that? Was he curious even?
Look, yes, he was. He asked me, what have you done? And I said, well, look, I actually did run the marathon. I had to retrain my body back to feel the ground under my foot, and it was almost like, running again like a piston. That's how I was able to throw my right leg forward and to learn to run again from scratch and build up. And yes, I did finish the marathon. But when I just said, basically, meditating daily, I'm eating well, I'm cutting out gluten, dairy and sugar, I'm having regular kinesiology sessions. And he said, well, clearly it's working, so carry on with that. But he also was quite cautious. He said that some people do have, recovery, or, the inflammation does reduce. So we still have to keep an eye on you. So he was quite cautious. But on my second appointment, another checkup, I asked him, because I wanted to know, I wanted him to say the words. And he said he hadn't seen anyone have that sort of recovery, if that's the right word, without medication.
Even the lesions, like I have never known MS lesions to disappear on drugs. Maybe symptoms, but not the lesions. So did he even say that with medication we would see a significant reduction in the lesions on the brain?
Yeah, he said only one person that he's seen on using medication where they completely disappeared. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously using an anti-inflammatory maybe, and that deflated the, took the fire out of the brain, and that was able to do it. But only one. That's, you should be so proud of what you've done.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it takes commitment, Sue. That's commitment to meditate every day, to visualize what you saw, to do the diet, to do everything that you did. It really takes commitment. And one of the things that I was just trying to find it then on my photos is that Gary Fedke, who's an orthopedic surgeon in Tasmania, put on his Instagram page recently. He said, most of my patients don't need a pill. They need a lifestyle change. And whether that lifestyle is about, let's look at the diet, are you moving, how many chemicals you're doing, or whether that lifestyle also means the lifestyle you're having in your head. Because so many people have so many negative thoughts about who they are. And, Joe Dispenza, I've been watching him since What the Bleep, which I think came out in 2006. And he was my favourite expert on that documentary. Do you want to explain what it was like to go to one of his progressive weekends? Do you want to explain what that's like?
I so want to go to one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I so want to go.
You must. Oh, if I could sell tickets here, I would. I just think he's just an amazing teacher.
I just want you to know that Cindy pokes me whenever we're together. We listen to the meditations, and honestly, I love it. I still listen to them to this day. I love them every night. I can't wait to listen to them.
Yeah,
Sue, how he does. Now poke the person beside you. You know how he says that all the time. Well, yeah. I've been listening to the whole weekend because I'm going, as you know, to the progressive. Yeah. I'm going in mid-June, and so I'd be listening to it, and Kim would be beside me or near me, or even if she wasn't, I would still poke her by the phone. And when he says, now poke the person beside you, I'd poke her.
Or I just get a text that says poke. I'm like, okay.
Okay, she's listening to Dr. Joe again. That's funny. His courses are amazing, and I think it's all full of, normal everyday people doing extraordinary things. I think that's the beauty of it. It's so down to earth that anyone can do it, and it's quite inspiring, and everyone's on their own journey with it. And I think when I did it was in the 9-month time period that I actually did 2 of his courses, and on the second one he actually talks about if you do have either an illness or something in your body, like visualizing wholeness and completeness. And I almost had an epiphany in one of his in that 9-month period where I actually felt completely detached from the inverted commas, the disease or MS, I never really identified with I have MS as if it's like a little baggage that you carry around, like I am this. I never identified with that. I almost thought of it in my mind and my heart as if it was just passing through me, and it would teach me whatever I needed to teach. So in the meditations, I got to a point where my body just, it's hard to explain apart from my body just felt whole, and I felt complete and oneness in that moment and in a whole 3 days, that I knew then that I was healed. But I also, it's almost I didn't need validation, but I also wanted the neurologist to say what he said to me and actually see the scans before and after for proof in a photo, because otherwise I couldn't explain to anyone, a layperson, how I felt in my body. But I actually felt it, that I was healed. Yeah.
Were you scared before you went for your 9-month checkup? Were you like going, what if it didn't work? Did you have that fear at all? Like, or were you like, you'd already been through it for 9 months, every single day, twice a day, you'd meditated it, and there was just no fear whatsoever?
Yeah, absolutely, Cindy. I was actually quite excited. It sounds really sick, but it sounds probably really sick, but I was actually quite excited, like, like a kid in a candy shop actually wanting to hear the news. And I remember being there in the scene, and it actually it wasn't like, completely. There was still, a couple that were there, which he said, but they'd shrunk so much. But it was almost like a bit like deja vu. In my mind, I was, well, I've already been here. And I remember Rod, my husband, he was, digging me in the ribs. He goes, "Oh, that's fantastic news." And it's almost like, not in a cocky way, but I almost felt, yeah, I know. I know. And he's just telling me confirmation of what I believe. Yeah. Yeah, very exciting.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to just tell a little story here. So when my sister passed away, she left quite a bit of money to a son that she gave up for adoption, 30-something years before. So my brother and I had to find this boy, and through a solicitor, we told him that this is what had happened. And after we'd settled the estate and paid him out, which was quite a few years after my sister died, he contacted us and asked to meet us. And as soon as I got the letter that he was wanted to meet us, I started to cry. And I thought, I cannot meet this person and then cry straight away. So what I did every single day, I would imagine meeting him and be happy and joyful and excited to see him, but not a tear in sight. And so when the night came, I'll never forget it, when the night came and my brother and I met him, I remember meeting him in Paran in Melbourne. I said hi and I gave him a hug and I was happy and not a tear in sight. My brother lost it. Completely, absolutely cried his eyes out. It was, and I thought, he obviously hadn't planned for this.
Gold. I can just see Marcus.
Yeah.
Oh, he lost it completely. And I'm thinking, and I didn't lose it once that night. I was so happy, and I had trained. That's what it is. I trained for that moment. In my mind's side, I had imagined every time I imagined that happiness and that contentment and not a tear in sight. Yeah. So it's remarkable. And Karen Smith is our absolute brain girl. She knows all about this. She just she's been very quiet back there, Miss Karen.
I've got to be honest, I'm sitting here in awe almost.
Yeah.
I really feel like, there's so much more available to us when we can look at things from a very holistic point of view of mind, body, soul connection, universal spirit, transcendence. If we can look at it from the whole gamut, I think that there's so much more that becomes available to the expansion of the human. And, the brain is one of the most incredible pieces of equipment that is so complex. It's actually the most complex piece of machinery on the face of the planet. And the beautiful part about it is that it lives inside and me. And to be able to investigate and work with it, I think is probably one of the most important things we can do. And then to master it, I think, is one of the most important things. But I think with what you're talking about there, Cindy, is the brain, doesn't actually know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So when you imagine, and like you were saying, Sue, you imagine the outcome, the brain doesn't know the difference between that being an imagined visualization and it actually being reality. So when you do that work, when you do those meditations or those visualizations, you're actually setting the brain to work for you, and for the most part, most of us, the brain thinks us. And, what happens internally is very driven by an unconscious set of rules, I guess, that the brain sets up as time goes on. But because we're not conscious of it, it kind of wreaks havoc in the body, and it has its way with us when it's not directed thought. But and as I say, I think I was just sitting here in total awe, because I love when we direct the brain to think on our behalf in a way that transforms life's experience, that heals the body, that then sets an example that this is possible for every other human being. I get really, really excited about it, and I feel very honoured to even just be in this conversation with you, Sue. I think it's I think for everybody that's listening to this podcast today, I think that there's a real gift to be gotten from this, in that it's not just about meditation and mindset. It's not just about exercise. It's not just about food. All of it together creates the most powerful resource that is available to us, and it's not woohoo stuff. It's the only thing that is actually real, and it's be able to combine all fronts that gives us the purpose in whatever the affliction is, because everything comes with a purpose. Nothing is a mistake. And I think that, anyway, I'm just kind of rambling now.
No, it's brilliant, Karen.
I think it's really something special.
I totally agree, Karen. And I think when you were talking about the visualizations, it's the power and the energy and the emotion behind that. So I just felt so much gratitude and happiness of actually, having already achieved that. And I think that when I have done visualization in the past and also now, if I don't have the feeling along with that attention, it doesn't work. Put simply, for me personally, it doesn't work. I have to have the combined, very clear intention of what I want to achieve, as I said, a complete bill of health, but also with that is the overriding emotion of the gratitude, of the happiness that fuels. It's amazing when the two come together. It's almost they intertwine, and I think that's the power and the passion that can of creation can come a lot quicker. It's very exciting.
So it's been measured. Sorry, darling.
I was just about to jump in too.
Go, you girl.
No, I'm done. You go.
Kim, you put up on the Up for a Chat Facebook page the difference between happiness and fun. And one of the things Sue has said, she had this absolute feeling of happiness. And many of us believe that, and this is what this basically this little bit of a video, it was absolutely brilliant, Kim. This video said that we go out and we get drunk or we do drugs and we go to a party and we go to a nightclub and we go out and we have fun. But he says that's not happiness. Happiness is that inner contentment, that inner peace, that feeling of absolute joy that surrounds us. And I would assume, Sue, you hit that.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting because I've heard the phrase before, to have tears of gratitude, and I never really understood it. And it was almost interesting in that, as I said, I did the meditations daily, but not every day was wow, I'm so excited and you know, I feel so grateful. Some actually felt as if I was just going through the motions. But I think the difference was maybe if you looking at the universal spirit, I was actually showing up every single day and I was doing the best that I could on that day. But the difference was I showed up every day, and I think that's where the power lies. Really, is your commitment to it.
And are you still showing up every single day? Do you still do your meditations? You're still strict on your diet, or can you not show up completely every day? Is that the question you're trying to ask? Can we have a little bit of a holiday?
Oh, you so could have a holiday. Oh my God, I do all the time. That's funny. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say I love the meditation, and again, some days are brilliant. I have some complete wacky out of body experiences, and others it's on the full spectrum of quite humdrum, as if, right, okay, I've done that tick meditation, so it's on the full spectrum. Diet, I found a happy place. I'm not completely very strict Wars protocol book. I kind of did it to start almost to give myself a kickstart. And now I've found the happy medium of what Sue and her body needs. But quite interestingly, that if I'm not say if it's falling off the wagon, but say, for example, if I'm at a drinks or function with the fried normal party food, and if I hadn't prepared or eaten beforehand and I had some of that food, which is highly fried, I would almost feel it in my body within 2-3 hours. So it's almost a case for choice. Well, do you want the inverted commas, a quick fix, or do you really want to like sustain yourself for the rest of your life? And you know, last night I went out for a friend that was leaving Sunshine Coast, and she was going down to Sydney. So we went out for cocktails and wine. And so this morning I woke up and, you know, I could feel it in my body, but because I'm overall quite healthy and clean diet, it was almost hard to describe it, just flushed out. So yeah, I think I just find the happy place within me and think of food and as fueling me, yeah, rather than comfort eating, which I did in the past.
Could you just tell us the meditations, how long they go for? Is it, I think it was twice a day that you said. So can you just tell us, is it Joe doing it? Do you do it by yourself? Can you explain the meditation you did?
Yeah. So the very first one that I did, it went for a very long time, and I thought, good grief, I was one of those people, you know, at a yoga class or when I did meditation in the past, that I was always fidgeting, and I thought, good grief, how on earth am I meant to sit still for an hour to an hour and a quarter, an hour and 15 minutes? But again, I persisted, and I just found that inner peace, as Dr. Joe says, and you would know, Cindy, the space between the space. And I just imagined that I was in the black hole, you know, in the night sky, surrounded by all these stars. So that was kind of my go-to place. If my monkey mind got in the way and started thinking, oh, Sue, you know, you've got to do this and you've got to prepare this and learn your whole to-do list, I would just say, okay, all right, well, that's nice. Now I'm going to go back into the space. So, yeah, but he's got so they go for about an hour, or he's got some shorter ones which are about 20 minutes. So it's very versatile, but it's always guided by him.
Yeah, and I love the way he does it, the space between your eyes in space. And so I spend the whole time in that first 10 minutes going, okay, where's my eyes in space? You know, I this is what I do. I go through this crazy thing. But I think, Karen, what you'll love is that it says, now I want you to be no thing, nowhere, nobody. What are they,
no
Sue?
time. No
time.
Yeah.
No.
Ones.
Oh, it's just.
yeah.
What is it? No, he goes through those whole things, and you just like go, okay, how do I become that? I actually ask him questions in my brain. Go, all right, how am I meant to do that? You know.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I mean, the meditations and the mindset of it is definitely a big chunk of it and everything. But when you said you decided to go paleo, I'm just curious to know, even from a mindset point of view, a lot of people want to go paleo or to at least eradicate sugar or to stop doing what they're obviously doing, which is contributing to perhaps a negative expression in the body. What exactly did you do, and how did you take the mindset to do it if you had been eating a certain way? I'm just trying to picture people that eat carbs and eat sugar and maybe even don't realise how much sugar they're eating even in healthy foods. How did you really become aware of what that looked like without just all the noise that's out there of what we think it should be? Could you explain to us how you went into that process?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, back in the day, I was a complete chocoholic. So I would easily get home from work and pile and eat, a whole packet of chocolate chip cookies, as well as my husband and I would sit on a Friday night and eat a whole family-sized bar of chocolate between the two of us. So quite highly addicted to sugar. So from going from that to where I am now, the transition for me was, again, it was mindset. I really had to, when I went to cafes, initially when I looked at the menu, it was almost a case of, well, I can't have that, I can't have that, I can't have that, I can't have that. And the further I went down the list, from a mindset point of view, I just went into victim mode. I thought, well, this is horrid. I might as well just stay at home and not go out with my friends because I can't eat anything. And then I turned it into, for me, it has to be fun. So I turned it into a game as to, okay, well, what can I eat? So it's almost turning it into a fun game like a kid. Well, look for an item on the menu that you can eat and you can enjoy. So that was one tactic I had. And then I also got back into the kitchen. I just followed, nice recipes, and I just thought, okay, well, if these are the ingredients I'm going to cook with tonight, let's see what I can conjure up that's going to be exciting and fun, and just tested all the recipes on my husband. And so that was one aspect I did. And just, again, in the mindset of, well, I just wanted my body so much to be so fit and well and healthy again. I thought I've got to give it the best chance and look for, from the belief that there's always another way, that there's always an alternative. So I was in the camp of, oh my God, well, if I can't have toast, what can I eat? So it became in my mind a little game. Okay, so what are the other alternatives for toast, and what can I create in the kitchen that could be a lot more nourishing for me and would still give me enough fuel for my training for a marathon. So another thing, I was actually tested for rice during a kinesiology session, and rice was okay for my body. So that was something that I incorporated into my diet. Just before a long run, I would always have, rice and mince, say, for example. So that would be my go-to fuel for a long run. Yeah, so that was a kind of transition in the food.
Okay, so just tell me, was there any sweet treats whatsoever? I mean, just come on, you've got to give us something.
I still do now have sweet treats, but one of the ones and I have to share the recipe with you girls and pop it up on the app for the chat. It was my go-to sweet thing. In Dr. Terry Wall's book, she had, I think it was called Wall's Fudge, and it was literally walnuts, raisins, coconut oil, and cocoa, so chocolate melts, and avocado, and mixing that all up in a food processor and then putting it in the fridge to set. That was my go-to sweet.
Yes,
it
please.
was so delicious. I have to make some for you girls. It was so yummy.
Please.
Well, actually, we won't put this to air until we do get some. So I'm just so our listeners, you'll know we've had recipe? Some.
But can we promise that recipe, Sue? Let's put it up with the show notes. So just send them to me and I'll make sure they go up on the show notes. I would absolutely love that. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, we'll do.
I have to tell you something. I've just been in Torquay, and I've been with a gentleman by the name of Mark Drill and his wife Nicole, and they have Hillbilby Fire Tonic. They own Hillbilby Fire Tonic. They are the most amazing couple. Anyway, you go into their house, and it's this. They've got ferments everywhere because that's what Fire Tonic is. It's a ferment. And anyway, they've got ferments everywhere. Anyway, they left me with, and I just want you to know what I've been munching on while we've been talking. They left me with black garlic. They said, "Here's Cindy." Like, I tried some, and I said, "Oh my gosh, this is like chocolate. It's like something sweet." And so they gave me a whole bowl of black garlic, which I've managed to absolutely devour while we've been talking. I feel for anybody who's going to be near me in the next hour or so.
Why does that not surprise me? Why?
Yeah. But I had no idea. Like, what he does is he puts it in a rice cooker, a bulb of garlic, and he puts it on warm, and he makes sure that it's above the heating element, and he just heats it for 18 days. Until it's black. And it's not burnt, it's caramelized. And it's the sweetest thing I've ever tasted. So I'm wondering, could we put black garlic with avocado and cacao nuts? What do you think, girls?
Oh,
I
yum.
actually think you're obviously
Just
delusional and you're feeling very hungry. I can sense it.
Just do it. No, just do it. I haven't committed.
Sounds amazing. I bet it's probably like doing, a peanut butter and jam or something like that, savoury with a sweet. It's probably divine.
Yeah. It's like, when you caramelise an onion, how sweet it can be, but you've got to add sugar to it just to do that bit of a caramelisation, or butter with a tiny little bit of sugar. Well, this is no oil, no nothing, just 18 days on warm in the rice cooker. Yeah, I know. I was in shock. I went, "How did you make this? How did you do that? What honey did you put to that?" So I was,
18 days, you're pretty patient.
Yeah, well, I've just gone through a whole lot, and it's going to be another 18 days until I'm going to have to get home and put it in for 18 days. We might have to do it at the office, Sue.
Yeah, I reckon. We have to do it in stages.
So tell us, am I right in hearing that you've written a book and tell us what you do now and what you're doing at Cindy's, and give us any details as to how people can find out more about you.
So at Changing Habits, I work in the marketing department. So it's on a cross of a number of projects, very, very busy, very exciting. And the book that I've written is up on Amazon, and it really started off as running my training log, and then it was documented about my diagnosis and what I did to recover after that, and then running and completing the Gold Coast Marathon. So that book is called Just Another 5K, so 5 and then KM. And my website, I really now, as well as working with Changing Habits, really want to help other people find a way that they can heal themselves from the inside out, using their mind, body and spirit working together. So my website is insideoutint, so INT.com, and the book is available on there, or you can get it at Amazon.
Sounds absolutely wonderful.
And Sue, can you tell us what's your family? Oh, sorry, Cindy, sorry. I just wanted to know a little bit more about you as a person and socialising and friends and family, and what's it like being out in Australia now? Like, where are you at with your own self-health and wealth right here and now?
Yeah, great question. I love it up here in the Sunshine Coast. That was one of the things in my healing, that I just had this vision that I just needed to get to Queensland and get out of the horrid Victorian winter. So how I convinced my husband that that's what I was going to do and leave him behind for 3 to 6 months and move up to the Sunshine Coast on my own for the winter. And then he came up, we moved up, we sold our house down in Geelong. We live in the Sunshine Coast and absolutely love it. We love the warm weather up here. Don't have any family here. I have a sister back in the UK. And, life's really good.
I love it. And you've done a great job. And getting Cindy and her voice and What's with Wheat and all of the things out there has been phenomenal. You've done a beautiful job and love your gentle nature. I just would love for everyone to know, apart from, maybe you need to let all the English people know how to come and live. I'm sure, have you girls noticed how many people always email us and say we want to live on the Sunshine Coast? So many people come here. What tips would you give to people who have just been diagnosed with something or told they have perhaps MS or some other autoimmune disease? What would be the top 5 steps or 3 steps that you'd recommend people to take action with? What's your take home? What you go away with?
I think for me, I would suggest that everyone is different, and almost to not always go for a second opinion, if not a third opinion. Research everything and research, the condition of the medication, because medications are okay for some people. It's like on a personal journey. Also look at the alternatives that are available as well, and look for proof of them working. And also learn the tools to tap into your own mind-body-spirit connection, and look at the diagnosis or the disease or illness or any trauma or stress in your life as a sign, as a teaching, and look within that and say, okay, well, if this was the biggest gift to me right now, what would that be? What can I learn from this? And then, that would be my takeaway to share with others.
Amazing, Sue. It's amazing. I have worked with you for quite a while now, and it's so nice to just have an hour with you without the craziness of changing habits and we're always talking work, to just really get to understand where you've been, what you've been through. And I don't know I think it's who you've become. I don't know what you were before because I didn't know you then, but I look at who you've become in the process of having these challenges in your life. And a lot of people see a disease as something, that is the end. There's no hope for them. But you actually saw it as a wake-up call to change mind, body, spirit. So congratulations. I'm very flattered that you're in my team, and that you're doing such an amazing job, not only at changing habits, but to the rest of the world as well. And I know how committed you are because, I've seen what you've done when you've been asked to do a talk, and where you were meant to be you were working with me, and then that night you zipped away and then came back again. So I know your commitment to getting this word out there, and I applaud you and I thank you.
Thank you. I just thought of one last thing, if there was a bonus step, some people say in life or any challenge that it's impossible. But if you break down the word impossible, it's I'm possible. So it's just to reframe that.
Yeah, love it.
I think, Sue, this has been a fantastic podcast. And Cindy, thank you so much for bringing her to our attention. It's all very, very, it's all perfect timing, and everything is always perfect timing. So no doubt we're going to have listeners who are paying attention to this show, who are snapping fingers going, oh, this is for me, this is for me, this is for me. So, Sue, thank you so much for bringing beautiful story and enlightenment and journey to the forefront and sharing it with all of us. And I know that there's going to be some serious lives changed as a result of not only what you shared, but I guess I always like to think that, our experiences happen on behalf of mankind, and our ability to share them with each other means that it's not just us that benefits from the transformation, it's the whole world, and we've got to take one for the team. So thank you, beautiful soul, for being so open and sharing your ride with us and letting us ride on your coattails.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Anytime, anytime. So for all of our listeners, those of you guys who have felt completely inspired and moved by today's podcast, go to our website, our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/up for a chat. You can also post your comments and your questions at allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up for a chat. Now join us here next week on Up for a Chat and become part of the ripple effect that is changing the world, and we are doing it one by one with absolute awesomeness. Join us and become part of that ride, and we're going to see you along the way. Big hugs coming your way. Bye, everybody.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavored to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.